Hey there. Thank you for joining me today. Today I'd like to invite you to have a look at this map of Vienna and then to look through these leaflets here to a number of different museums that you can find in Vienna and some just outside. Of course, these aren't all the museums that there are, but some of the material that I've been able to find. And we're going to place these here on the map, and so you can see where to find all of them. So here we are with the historic center of the city, the Danube, and the inner districts and the outer districts. Now, let's count these first and see how many there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29. Okay, so the first one is part of the Wien Museum. So a museum of the city of Vienna, but there are a number of different venues that all belong to the Wien Museum. This one here is about Vienna in Roman times. So it says here, we encounter Roman Vienna and its population of around 30,000 people, the height of its development. Vienna was then comprised of an army camp that would be up here, a military suburb, this is the part in yellow, a civilian town down here, as well as rural dwellings. And we find it in the first district, 1010 Hoher Markt 3. So we're here in this area. Let's see, we have Befreiung, Schottenstift, Stephansdom, Bolzheile, Seilerstätte, Kärntner Straße. Alright, so here we have Hoher Markt. So let's write a note. Wien Museum would be here. Then we get to the next part, which is also part of the Wien Museum. This one is the Neidhardt Festsaal, wall paintings from the Middle Ages. So we're going through time here. The Neidhardt Festsaal, with its spectacular wall paintings dating to shortly after 1400, is a unique space in Vienna. Once vibrantly colorful, the murals are the oldest surviving secular room decorations in the city. And it was discovered during the renovation of an apartment in 1979. Alright, let's see where we can find this. Tuchlauben 19, also in the first district. So we're going to include this here in this part. Both are in the first. Here we have another venue of the Wien Museum. And together with the Wien Bibliothek im Rathaus, so the Library of Vienna. It's about Felix Salten, and it's a special exhibition that runs from October until April. It's about Bambi. Felix Salten was the author of Bambi that you might all know from the Walt Disney movie. He was also a journalist. And this exhibition too is in the first district, Felderstraße 6 bis 8. And I guess there are two venues here. The second one is in the Rathaus. So that would be along the Ringstraße, right here. Rathausplatz and the Rathaus. So there's probably another entrance here. Alright, so that's the Wien Museum. Now here we have the MQ, Museumsquartier Wien, a guide to the cultural district. So you see there are many different things that you can find inside the Museumsquartier. just note where it is. It's right here. Museumskvarter. And it's relatively new. It was opened pretty much exactly 20 years ago, or soon 20 years ago. And before, these were the stables of the Imperial Palace. For the last 20 years, it's been a big cultural space. There are two big museums inside, the Leopold Museum and the MUMAG, the Museum of Modern Art. Then there's the Kunsthalle here in the center, which is another exhibition space. There's a concert hall. There's a Tanzquartier, so dance studios, a theater for children and teenagers, and a kids museum, and then architectural center. And then I think you find a number of different offices and studios. There's all kind of things going on here. It's a really lovely space. So one of those things is the Architekturzentrum. Different exhibitions and a lot of guided tours. This is about Austrian architecture in the 20th and 21st century. Here's an exhibition about Adolf Loos, a famous architect. Plenty of discussions and excursions and workshops and talks. Then here we have the Kunsthalle with a special exhibition on Silnia Silnik, Shadow Citizens. He's a filmmaker who lives and works in Novi Sad, Serbia. And they're going to have some of his movies as well as some short films. And the flyer is in German, English, and Serbian, I assume. Here you can see free Thursday nights. So every Thursday there's free admission from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Then here we have two flyers for the Leopold Museum. This is one of my favorite museums in Vienna. I really like the show Wien 1900. So it's about Vienna around 1900, and it has plenty of masterpieces from Klimt and Schiele. That would be this guy. I don't know if he's that well known outside of Austria, but he was one of Klimt's pupils, or one of his students. He's quite famous here. So they also have some furniture designs. And the title is Birth of Modernism, with guided tours upon request. And right now, or at least last summer, this is a bit older, they had a special exhibition on Schiele and Hundertwasser, who's also a famous Austrian artist. He's more well known for his architectural design. I didn't know that. I think he really loved Egon Schiele. Says here from the Diary of Hundertwasser, Schiele should still be alive. I would tell him wonderful things from my journey. And he writes, I often dream like Schiele, my father, about flowers that are red, and birds and flying fish, and gardens in velvet and emerald green, and human beings who walk weeping in red yellow and ocean blue. So they never had a chance to meet, but apparently they had a lot in common. And there is another different exhibition space specifically dedicated to Hundertwasser. We'll get there in a moment. But now the last exhibition space in the museum's quarter would be the MUMOG, Museum Moderner Kunst, Stiftung Ludwig Wien. They have some on Andy Warhol exhibits. And here they have something called Misfitting Together, serial formations of pop art, minimal art, and conceptual art. They also have a small cinema with art films from the 60s and 70s, and the library. And they have free guided tours every Saturday and Sunday at 2 and 3 p.m. And their other exhibitions are on Ingeborg Strobel and Steve Reinke. So I really like the MUMOG. There's often things that are completely new to me, but that are really quite interesting. I feel like it's a space that allows you to get a little bit lost in it, which I enjoy. Alright, then we get to the Art History Museum, one of the biggest museums in Vienna. And as you can guess, they have some old masters. Here's Breughel with the Tower of Babel. So let's take green for the Art History Museum. German, it's Kunsthistorisches Museum, short KHM. Right. I think we have to move the MQ a little bit. So it's right here. Kunsthistorisches. The museum's quarters right across the street. Museumsquartier. Kunsthistorisches. There you go, it's a beautiful building. We have a large square in front of it. The museum's quarter would be here. This is the Ringstraße, and over here you see the newest part of the Hofburg, the Neue Burg. number of different museums that belong to the Art History Museum. Here's the Kunsthistorisches, one of the world's foremost museums, which has the collections of the emperors and archdukes of the House of Habsburg, with major works of old masters, the world's largest collection of Bruegel paintings, and the Kunstkammer with some wonderful artworks like the Saliera by Benvenuto Cellini. Then there's the Weltmuseum Wien, which is one of the world's leading ethnological museums. This is placed inside the Hofburg Palace. I think the most famous object that's on display here is the penacho, the feather crown of the Aztecs. And also inside the Hofburg is the Imperial Treasury Vienna, with the Austrian imperial crown and the insignia of the Holy Roman Empire, with the imperial crown and the Holy Lands. Then there's also treasures of the Order of the Golden Fleece, parts of the immensely opulent treasure of the Dukes of Burgundy, the original jewelry of Empress Elizabeth, and legendary treasures such as the Holy Grail or a horn of a unicorn. And the fourth museum belonging to the Art History Museum is the Kaiserliche Wagenburg, the Imperial Carriage Museum. It also has the uniform of the last emperor and the dress worn by the Empress Elizabeth. Sissi. Right, so we have the Art History Museum, the Ethnological Museum, the Treasury, and then the Wagenburg is a little bit further out. So we have Art History Museum, Ethnological Museum, and here's the Hofburg with the Treasury. And the Carriage Museum would be down here next to Schloss Schönbrunn, here in this area, I think. So we take a green one for Wagenburg. And let's put that here. Alright, so this is the Weltmuseum, and they currently have a special exhibition on the Aztecs. Alright, then here we have the NHM, the Natural History Museum. And now you might think, isn't this the Art History Museum? And you'd be correct, they look exactly the same. It's two twin buildings, this beautiful cupola here at the center, and they're right across from each other, and it can be a little difficult to know where you have to go. So if the Art History Museum is here, then the Natural Museum will be right across. Let's take a blue one, like this beautiful they've designed their flyer with all of the languages in one. There's German, English, Dutch, French, Italian, Spanish, Hungarian. Here I'm not sure. I can't read these letters, unfortunately. If you know which language this is, let me know. This is Greek, Russian, Polish, and Czech. And the name of the Natural History Museum translated into all of these languages. This also dates back to the collection of the Habsburgs. And they have the largest and oldest display of meteorites in the world. It was said to be one of the 10 best museums in the world. And it has valuable precious stones, fossils, and rare animals to the world famous Venus of Willendorf, which you see right here. There's also a lot of research going on, and you can take a guided tour over the roofs of Vienna. So you can walk around the roof of the building and look out across the center of Vienna. So that's really gorgeous. It's quite a large museum, and I don't know, when I was a kid I always liked the dinosaur exhibition, but there's plenty of other really interesting objects that are on display, and they often have expositions on space exploration, which I find really interesting. Alright, let's see. Which ones do we take next? So this is still part of the Hofburg since we're in that area. This is the Spanish Riding School. Now that's not really a museum, but it belongs to these Habsburg expositions. These beautiful horses called Lipizzans. I think that's how you pronounce it in English. Lipizzano. They come from Pipa, which is in Styria, and sometimes they also have these foals in Vienna. You can go there and watch in this big old riding hall. It's really, really beautiful while they gallop around. So with white horses, you might know that they are always dark when they're still young. And it takes about 7 years before they're all white. They also have horses for sale, but I don't want to look at the prices. They're really beautiful. And they would be, let's see, go. So you would walk through the Hofburg to Michaelerplatz, and then this little corner here are the stables, and you can look inside from the street. and sometimes see a horse looking out. Right. Then there's the Sissi Museum, also located here. It's called Myth and Reality and explores the personality and life of this unusual empress. The main focus is on the private aspects of Elizabeth's life, as revealed in her poetry, which allows us a direct insight into her personality, her rebellion against court ceremonial, and her flight into the cult of her own beauty. Then you can visit the Imperial Apartments and the Silver Collection. Magnificent items from the Imperial Court household. And you see this is also located right here inside the Hofburg. So the horses would be over here. The Art History and Natural History Museum would be in this area. Here in the center you would have the Sissi Museum. So let's take a pink one for Sissi. I think she is a bit of a tragic figure who was quite unhappy at court. But of course nowadays she's very famous, I think partly because of the movies from the 50s with Romy Schneider. Right, and here we have the Austrian National Library, which is also located here. We're going to run out of space. There's the State Hall, so the old Baroque library. Just a gorgeous space. But they also have some smaller expositions, which I think are really interesting. There's the Globe Museum, Papyrus Museum, and Esperanto Museum, and the newest one, the House of Austrian History, which was opened I think only 2 or 3 years ago. And from what I know, they might be moving again this year or next year, so it might be temporary. I'm not quite sure yet where it's going to go. This is about the Austrian history of the last 100 years, called Into the Unknown, Austria since 1918. Which of course is a time when a lot of things happen, so definitely worth its own exposition. So these two, the House of Austrian History and the Papyrus Museum, are at Heldenplatz. So they will be right here at the center. The Globe Museum and the Esperanto Museum would be in Herrengasse. So that's just around the corner. But I'm not sure if we can find it right here. Herrengasse. So when you exit the Hofburg towards the inner city, you're right here. So we have the National Library. Let's place it here. Then the Albertina is sometimes counted as part of the Hofburg, but I think it's technically outside in a separate building. This is a little more modern. It's called Milestones of Modernism. Monet bis Picasso. So this is just one little leaflet. The Albertina is home to one of Europe's most outstanding collections of classical modernist paintings, from French Impressionism, Pointillism and Fauvism, to the Expressionist artists groups Die Brücke and Der Blaue Reiter, and on to the Russian avant-garde and the numerous works by Pablo Picasso. So this is definitely worth visiting. A lot of artists you probably know. Chagall and Pablo Picasso. And it's also right here in this area. Albertina. Right. It's sort of behind the opera. Don't know if you can see it here. It says Albertina. There's the Burggarten, so a park where you can sit on the grass in summer. And here is the museum. There we go. Alright, and then we get to some of the smaller exposition spaces. We have the Sezession, which maybe you remember from the video I made about Gustav Klimt. He was one of the founders of the Sezession. So it's the world's oldest independent exhibition institution specifically dedicated to contemporary art. And the motto is, to every time it's art, to art it's freedom. Der Zeit ihre Kunst, der Kunst ihre Freiheit. It's a really beautiful building. And we find it a little more south. Let's take another yellow one. Close to Naschmarkt. In this area here, let's see if we can find it. There's the Theater an der Wien. I think it's a bit too small. It's in this area here. There we go. Then we have the Jüdisches Museum Wien, with a number of different venues and exposition spaces. There is one here at Judenplatz. The larger exposition space is here in Dorotheagasse, and up here by Rabensteig the Herfer Library. They have some really interesting expositions. One was about the shopping centers of around 1900. That was the last one I saw, I think, 2 years ago. So, Jüdisches Museum. So since we're running out of space a little here in the center, let's just put it here. It's also in the first district. Then you can visit the former home of Sigmund Freud in Berggasse 19. So here we're in a different district, Wien 9, the 9th district. And it's just a normal house from that period. And this family lived there for 47 years. So you can go inside and just visit the apartment and the space where he worked. It's open daily from 10 to 6. And it's located between Schottentor and Rossauerlinde. So there would be, here we have Schottentor and here is Rossauerlinde. Up here, Berggasse. Let's see, which car should we take? Maybe this one. Freud. Up here, Berggasse. Then here is the 100 Wasserhaus. So 100 Wasser, we just saw earlier, is on display in the Leopold Museum, or was on display. But he's most famous for these houses and facades. And it said that there is not one straight line inside these houses, because the windows are sort of straight. And this one's located in the 3rd district, 1030, right here. You can see this is the Donau Canal. This part here, let's take a blue one. Right, 100 Wasser. Right here. Then we have some porcelain. My safe place. Wiener Porzellan Barock bis 2020 at the Augarten Museum, which would be here. Porzellan. So the name of the company is the same name as the name of the park. Augarten Porzellan. Very beautiful. We have an exposition space inside the Dom Museum, so the museum of the cathedral, called Fragile Creation. And it's located right behind the cathedral. Right. Let's take this. Which color? Let's take orange. Dom Museum. It should also be here in the center. And this one would be a little further out. Stiftkloster Neuburg. So I don't think we can still find this here. be here up north along the Danube. You can see it here right in the corner. I think this belongs to the church, but it was built as a mirror to the Spanish palace of the Habsburgs, the Escorial. And if you go to the cafe there, it is called Café Escorial. There's a beautiful space with some medieval artifacts like the Verdun altar. And they also have, let's see if we can find it, a vineyard and the wine shop. I feel like that's very Catholic. There you go, so you can taste some wine and you can watch an exhibition called What Makes Woe. So that's a bit further out. The Stift Klosterneuburg. Alright. Then we have the Belvedere, which also has a beautiful park. So let's take another green one. And they have two different buildings. This one is the Oberes Belvedere, with a special exhibition about Elena Lukszmakowski called Silver Age and Secession. Here, she's an artist from St. Petersburg who lived in Vienna for 7 years and participated in some of the major exhibitions of the Vienna Secession. And she also illustrated a Versacrum booklet with her woodcuts. Versacrum was published, I think, by the Secession Group. And after that, she moved on to Hamburg. So she's on display here in the Belvedere and was part of the Secession. Here we have the House of Music with Beethoven at the center. We are again in the first district, behind the opera. This is a lovely place. You can take a journey into the inner world of sounds and also test your talent as a conductor and face the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra. I've tried this and it's not really easy. So for this one, let's take dark blue. Haus der Musik. The House of Music here by Kärntnering. There's also a technical museum. Technisches Museum. I have to admit I've never been there. It's a little further out in the 14th district along the Leaflets. Somehow I never go there. So let's see, here's Maria Hilferstraße. Continues down here. So I think it's somewhere in this area. Here, Technisches Museum Wien. That would be a nice place to visit in summer. Maybe first go to the museum and then down here to Schönbrunn and just wander around the park. Right, the last museum or exhibition hall is the Kunstforum. Kunstforum. So there's not really any space left, but it's here near the Freyungen Schottenstift. And they often have more modern artists. I don't know Gerhard Richter, but I saw that the next ones are going to be Daniel Spöri and Rebecca Horn. Definitely want to see this one. So I hope that all the museums are going to be open again by then. You see, there's also plenty of workshops and things that you can do with your children, which I think is quite great. And then the last two aren't really museums, but I got these flyers anyway. The Haus des Meeres, which is an Aqua Terra Zoo in Schönbrunn. So Schönbrunn is down here. There's the palace in the center and the zoo is here on the side. And the Haus des Meeres would be here in this area. It is a tower left over from the Second World War that you can climb floor by floor and find different kinds of fish and animals. It's the Amazonian rainforest, a chameleon site, giant Chinese salamander, a large shark aquarium and deep sea tanks, cafe sharking, tropical sea life and coral reefs. Over here you have snakes, saurians and leafcutter ants. So this is quite fascinating. From the top you have a beautiful view of the city. Alright. So there's plenty of things to visit in Vienna. Of course, there's some more museums, mostly smaller ones all across the different districts. But if you want to see them all, you need quite a lot of time. And it's good to pick whatever interests you the most. So for now, I say thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this, and that I'll see you again next time.